Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Are Avodah San Diego. I'm so delighted you're here this evening. My name is Cheryl Cook, and I am the proud CEO of Avodah. So I was really hoping to be with all of you in person tonight, but our plans have changed. We are all learning how to be flexible in our space and time. So I really appreciate your flexibility. And the silver lining is that we have so many people who are going to be joining us over the course of tonight. So tonight, we're going to introduce you to Avodah in some of the ways that our incredible core members are working for change in San Diego and across the border. So first, just to open, we're going to hear from our beloved Rabbi, Yael Rydberg, who many of you know from Congregation Dor Chadash, and who is also a member of our San Diego Advisory Council.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Delighted to be with all of you. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Mikor HaChesed ve'Avodah. Dear God and God of our ancestors, source of holy beginnings. As we gather this evening to celebrate the opening of the San Diego Bite of Avodah, we reflect on and recommit ourselves to the work of the Jewish Service Corps, sparking Jewish leaders, igniting social change, and we ask for strength and courage and wisdom to support our core members in their work. We stand tonight between the moment of liberation from Egypt and the anticipated revelation at Sinai. These twin impulses of Jewish peoplehood call us to cultivate and nurture Jewish values and vision for ourselves as a community, and at the same time, make sure to care for and about the environment and the people around us. Embolden our first cohort of core members to love mercy, to pursue justice, and to walk humbly through the world so that they are better able to make a difference here in San Diego and in collaboration with the many community partners who wish them meaningful work and transformational experiences. Help them and us to make real change on issues including immigration, refugee and asylum seeker assistance, homelessness, criminal justice reform. May they see this beginning as emblematic of the noble effort to move our ancestors from slavery to freedom, from degradation to dignity, from helplessness to hopefulness. Enable all of us to remember that what threatens to harm our people threatens to harm others as well. And we are called to further remove impediments to justice and freedom so that we might all declare, we will do and we will listen. Mikor HaHora'ah, source of instruction. Let the abundance of your love penetrate our beginning here in San Diego so that the children, the immigrants, the soldiers, the abused, the hungry, the homeless, the elderly, the homebound, the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, those of other faiths and those of no faith can receive the revelation of compassion and mercy, empathy and courage, authenticity and creativity. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you, Yael, for those beautiful, powerful words. What a beautiful way to open our service corps in Avodah San Diego. So for those of you who might be new to Avodah, we develop lifelong social justice leaders whose work is informed by Jewish values and who inspire the Jewish community to work toward a more just and equitable world. Our year-long Jewish Service Corps was founded in 1998 in New York City. It's very similar in some ways to AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps, but with a Jewish frame. In the Jewish Service Corps, participants spend a year working at an anti-poverty not-for-profit organization, living communally in the Avodah Bait or house, and participating in an intensive leadership development program exploring the connection between Jewish values and justice. The core members in our new San Diego site, the first on the West Coast, join a national network of 1,400 participants and alumni across the country in Chicago, Kansas City, New Orleans, New York, Washington, D.C., and many other cities. Our alumni are leaders in the fight for social change across the country and inspire me every day with their commitment and passion. We set our sights on San Diego back in 2018 when I visited the border with a delegation of Jewish leaders organized by HIAS and Jewish Family Service and saw the devastating impact of the immigration crisis firsthand. It took a little while to get here, but the pandemic couldn't stop us from joining your beautiful community. This past August, we arrived in San Diego and have been met with open arms. Let me say, we wouldn't be in San Diego without our lead partner, Jewish Family Service. Their leaders have been integral to our launch. I'm talking about Michael Hopkins, Carol Yellen, who is on our local advisory council, and Dana Topol. And we have exceptional core members working across the country, across the community, and one at Jewish Family Service this year in the Center for Jewish Care. So thank you all so much. We have two local professionals in San Diego, Claudia Ehrlich, our Director of Strategic Partnerships, who is responsible for growing our local culture of philanthropy and has assembled our highly engaged advisory council, chaired by Aviva Paley. I want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone who has joined the Avodah Advisory Council. I know so many of you are on this call. You can scroll through and see who they are. You've marked yourselves, I hope, with AC next to your name. You've all been exceptional partners in launching this program. Thank you. And Anna Worrell, our program director, who works directly with our first cohort of 6 exceptional Service Corps members. She leads them in programming and supports them as they do their critical justice and anti-poverty work in our 4 placement partner organizations, Jewish Family Service, Dreams for Change, San Diego Youth Services, and El Otro Lado. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary community of stakeholders on this call. You've been tremendous friends and supporters. You've trusted us and you represent the vision we seeded here pre-pandemic, our present growth and future promise of a deep and impactful San Diego presence. For all of this, I am so grateful. We're fortunate tonight to have with us Nicole Ramos, Director of the Border Rights Project at El Otro Lado, and Mackenzie Martinez, one of 2 Avodah core members working under the leadership of Nicole at El Otro Lado. I'm going to ask that everyone keep yourself muted during the presentation, but if you have specific questions about the work being done, you can ask in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them. So hi, Nicole and Mackenzie. I'm delighted to welcome you both. Thank you for being here. Mackenzie, let me start with you. Can you share a little bit about your background and what brought you to Avodah?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. My name is Mackenzie Martinez. I am a core member here in San Diego. I'm outside in our backyard on Kumeyaay land. And yeah, so I came to Avodah through my university. I recently graduated from Elon University in rural North Carolina. I studied anthropology, Spanish, women's gender sexuality studies, and Latin American studies. And in my senior year, I was really looking around at different programs, different fellowships, different positions that would allow me to take kind of all of this, smattering of coursework that I had taken, this social justice passion that I really had, and this desire to grow in my Jewish identity and find something that kind of melded all of those together into something that was meaningful, something that made an impact, and something that would not just be kind of like a one and done sort of experience, but that would get to propel me into a career, into a field. And Avodah was really just the perfect fit. It actually showed up in our, my campus Hillel had a Facebook page. And so my rabbi one day texted me, he was like, hey, like, you got to check out this job this one put on the Facebook page. And I was like, okay, like, what is this? And so obviously I went on the Facebook page, I started poking around the website, and I saw that they were going to be in San Diego doing immigration work. And I was like, oh, like, this is a sign. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And then as I got farther along in the process and I got to meet with Nicole and other folks from El Otro Lado, I knew that there was no question I would accept no other placement. I would accept no other fellowship or position unless it was Avodah San Diego with El Otro Lado. So that's how I ended up here.
so much, Mackenzie. Nicole, hi. Thanks for being here. Will you share with us a little bit about what Al Atralado does and what your role is there?
Sure. I am with Avodah. I'm director of our Border Rights Project, which is based in Tijuana at the San Diego-Tijuana border. And Avodah as an organization, we're a binational legal services and immigrant rights organization. We focus on both the big picture as well as the individuals that are part of the big picture. So we work with asylum seekers in Tijuana and other parts of Mexico to understand what it is the right to asylum, how US immigration policies at the border may impact or limit that right to seek asylum. And we try to find the most vulnerable of those folks to accompany and help them get across the border so that they can be in the US and fight their asylum case. While we're doing that, we're also collecting a lot of information, a lot of data, and we turn that human rights data into reporting, and that gets funneled into our class action litigation. Right now, we have 5 class action lawsuits against the US government challenging the right to seek asylum at the border and conditions inside detention. And how that plays, out on the ground. For example, right now the border is closed because of Title 42. And so many people, thousands of people can't get across regardless of those circumstances. Our team identified one particular family that had just survived a kidnapping. They had a 2-year-old son who, after taking him to the hospital because of the injuries that they suffered during the kidnapping, they found out that he was dying of leukemia, and he had no access to care in Tijuana. And he was getting really sick really quickly, but through advocacy of our team and basically just knocking on every door, including the door of the San Diego Tribune that did a feature story on this case, this family was able to be granted access into the country so they can pursue their asylum case, but most critically so that child can get care. And right now he is getting care and he is going to get better.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks for sharing that story to really bring your work to life for all of us. Mackenzie, will you share your role? What are you doing day to day?
Yeah, so my official title at Al Otro Lado is Border Rights Project Fellow. So I like to say that I'm kind of the Jane of all trades. My job is to make other people's lives easier, to plug into whatever projects need support, need assistance. If that means helping Nicole, send emails, make a Google form, I'm there. So I do a lot of different things. My main projects right now are with volunteer coordination in our humanitarian parole project. So as Nicole was saying, our humanitarian parole program is currently the only legal accessible avenue for folks to move from Mexico to the United States to either seek life-saving medical care or to escape life-threatening situations in Mexico and Central America. So I do a lot of work with that, with coordinating and supervising the volunteers that we've got for that project, coordinating with one of our local partners, the Refugee Health Alliance Clinic, and getting folks who need medical attention to the clinic, filing applications for folks that the clinic has referred to us, also working directly with clients occasionally. And then in terms of volunteer coordination, again, that kind of bleeds into every aspect of the organization. We are a very small but very strong team in Tijuana. We're maybe 10, 15 people, and we're able to serve thousands of clients thanks to the huge number of volunteers that we have, their dedication, their passion, and their flexibility for working with us. So I do a lot of emailing with folks, doing different call outs, contacting universities, law schools, drumming up interest. And then once we get people reeled in, I connect them with trainings, I connect them with supervisors and projects, and make sure that everybody has enough, volunteer love to go around. So my day-to-day really depends a lot on kind of what the situation is, whether that's internally, what programs we have going on, whether that's, making shifts because of policy changes. It varies a lot, but I spend, unfortunately, most of my days working remotely, which is great for email, but I do cross the border about 1 to 2 times a week.
Thanks. I appreciate your sharing that. And I'm curious about this particular time. So you just started to touch on it. right, where you're doing this work, and Nicole, you're doing this work, right, through COVID, which I know is particularly challenging. Mackenzie, do you want to share a little bit about how, right, you said you're doing some of this work remotely, and you're doing some of this work, you're crossing the border each week as well. How are you navigating all of that?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that it makes me think of is privilege, obviously. Here I am, a US born citizen with a passport, with a global entry card, with a social security number, and I'm able to cross the border. I could go back and forth all day if I wanted. No one could stop me. But then when I cross, you enter an entirely new world of thousands upon thousands of folks who are quite literally fleeing for their lives, and would not be in the border if they had any other choice. Obviously, no one would subject themselves to the type of discrimination and poverty that folks are living at the border if they had no other choice. No one would leave their home if they had no other choice. So, crossing into Mexico is a really humbling experience for me. Seeing the way that my citizenship and my passport hold power for me and privilege that the folks that I'm working with directly are not able to access, and who are blatantly being denied access to. So working in person is really great, though, in that we get to connect with the clients one-on-one. Obviously, the work that we're doing happens on the ground, happens in real life. So it's really refreshing to get out from behind my computer screen and get to meet people face to face, get to kind of put names and phone numbers together. But it definitely brings to light also a lot of technical inequality. Obviously, Mexico is a country that has had a lot less development and a lot less resources in comparison to the United States. So whereas here you can get data from anywhere. I've got clients who I can no longer contact them, or we can no longer work with them because suddenly they're out of service, they're out of data, they can't pay their bills. There's not just internet cafes that you can go to necessarily. There's nowhere that you can print. So in our work, I think a lot of our struggles in connecting with clients is surmounting these, institutional barriers that are placed, to kind of keep the hierarchy of poverty and richness in place. So that's definitely a really big struggle. But on the plus side, being remote really does allow us to reach a lot more quantity of people. We've been able to work with clients from across the literal entire border, from all the way west in Tijuana to all the way to the east in Reynosa. And we've also been able to connect with volunteers from all across the country. One of our current volunteers is originally from Germany. We've got folks on the eastern seaboard and the Midwest and Canada. So it's really allowed us to expand our volunteer capacity and really bring on a lot more of a diverse and a lot more of a just widespread group of volunteers.
Yeah, I want to actually shout out that we actually got introduced to El Otro Lado through a supporter of yours and a volunteer of yours. And so it's wonderful to have this connection. And for everyone on the call, I just want to say that we are going to be growing our program next year, and we're going to be looking for other not-for-profits to be able to work with alongside the ones we're already working with. So if you are connected, there are opportunities to really connect us, and we can touch on that right at the end. So Nicole, I just want to ask you, we have placements, we have 60 placements across the country. You are one of them. What's meant for you to have Mackenzie and her fellow core member, Rachel, on board with you? And how has your partnership with Avodah helped you advance your work?
Well, I mean, it's a delight to have Mackenzie and Rachel with us. They're both incredibly enthusiastic, and they have a lot of energy and a tremendous amount of outrage at the injustices that they have to see on a daily basis in interacting with clients and hearing their stories. And it's that both the outrage and the energy that helps keep our team in check. A lot of us have been doing this for many years. And it's, not easy to do the work every day, and you have to build an armor and a shell. And sometimes things which should be shocking cease to be shocking. And so they're a really good check on our cynicism and how the world should be. And as far as increasing capacity, having 2 additional people to not only work with clients, but help manage our volunteers has just a domino effect on our capacity. I can't really quantify how much more capacity we have with the 2 Avodah Corp members, but what I to give you kind of a hard number example, since April, we have been able to get humanitarian parole for just a little over 6,000 people from 18 different countries, speaking 17 different languages, and a little over half of those 6,000 people were children. And so that's their impact in a real way, because those 6,000 people, their lives will never be the same. And it's because we have such a wonderful team, and Rachel and Mackenzie have both fit seamlessly into that team and made us grow stronger.
Thanks for sharing that. It's great to hear. It's exactly what we hope and want when we set up the service corps. So it's really wonderful to hear directly. Mackenzie, I'd love to hear what this work and program has meant for your own Jewish journey and work for social justice.
Yeah, I definitely think it comes in two parts. We joke I kind of have two full-time jobs, both my work with Al Otro Lado and then my work with Avodah, because it's not just, we're all living in a house and going to work. We have programming, we have Shabbat dinners, we have movie nights, we have programs like this where we get to reach out to the community. So it's two very different worlds that do fit pretty seamlessly together. Al Otro Lado is just incredible, and I can't thank Nicole and the rest of the team enough for obviously taking a chance on Rachel and I and giving us this opportunity. The work is so difficult, but it's so important and so rewarding. And it's something that I would really like to spend a lot of my life doing. So it's been a huge honor to get to do it in the way that I am, and with an organization that is just so good at what it does and serves their clients with such dedication and such like unparalleled passion. I've absolutely loved that. And I think, the Judaism bit fits in really nicely with that. We have this saying, it's like you save one life, you save the world. And that's something I think about a lot, thinking about our number 6,000, but even in my day-to-day interactions with clients, we had, I think about 2 weeks ago now, a woman reached out to us on like a Tuesday afternoon. She had fled her country of origin from really horrific gang violence and a lot of really terrible things with her children. She was on the border trying to cross and was discovered by this gang and pretty brutally assaulted. And in that actually lost both of her children. They got separated from her and crossed the border without her. So she called us on a Tuesday, told us everything that happened. And our attorney called me and said, hey, can you get in touch with this woman? Can we get her a parole request filed now? And so we made it happen. Our team made it happen. And within a week, she went from living on the streets in Mexico to being reunited with her family in the United States. Most of our stories don't end like that, unfortunately. Most of our clients are rejected for parole. The current government that we have, despite the administration that's in place and whatever promises that were made, is really not so different from the administration that we've had for the past 5-6 years. There are thousands of people with no access to healthcare, no access to clean water, to hygiene facilities, and no access to asylum or any real pathway to citizenship. And so it's never easy work to do, and it can be really discouraging. But I don't know, that phrase is probably one of my favorite phrases, thinking about how, every life that you save makes a difference. And getting to see the small successes that we do have really, I think, keep all of us at AOL going, keep us going and keep us passionate about the work that we're doing. And it definitely really helps to have a wonderful house full of people that get that do really similar work, that do really hard work, and we can all come home and kind of dish about it together over dinner. We can all, share stories and share strategies and have movie nights and decompress together and analyze it further in our programming. So it's a really great combination of getting to do really meaningful work and getting to do it with people that make it even more meaningful. And the Jewish lens just kind of, I think, brings it all together under that quote.
I just want to thank you both so much. I don't think any questions came through. I didn't see any questions come through. If anyone has a question, you're welcome to send it in the chat right now. But I really just want to say it's really both inspiring, powerful, and hard to hear all of the stories and all of what you're talking about. And I'm really just so proud that Avodah is partnering with you, with Al Otro Lado, Mackenzie, that you're there, as well as Rachel, who's there. this is, a piece of our work, and it's a piece that I am so incredibly proud of. It's why we came to San Diego. It's the kind of work we want to be doing, and it's really, really incredible. And yes, it was amazing. So I am gonna thank both of you, and we can keep moving. And I'm really grateful, and hopefully I'll get to see you both in person soon. So to continue, so the Service Corps is really just the beginning for our participants and Corps members. And we are a 23-year-old organization, and we know from our experience that our participants make a lifelong commitment to pursuing justice. So just to put that into data for a second, over 80% of our alumni continue being involved in justice work long after they move out of the Bight. Most of them working in justice work. I'm really proud to note that we also count so many of our alumni among our supporters. So I'm delighted to introduce you to one of our local alumni and a member of our San Diego Advisory Council, Avital Aboudi. So hi, Avital. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for all you do and your role as an Advisory Council member. So can you share a little bit about how you came to Avodah as a Corps member in New York in 2010? I know it's been a long time, and the work you did during your service year.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I had to go move outside, so hopefully the planes flying over me are not too distracting. I do live in the flight path, but there's one right now. Anyway, I had Avodah from a few different folks that I had met I knew in college, and then also the year before I did Avodah, I was doing a fellowship in Jerusalem, the New Israel Fund, and one of my fellows, another fellow with me, had just come from Avodah in New York, and she just had really fantastic stories, and I really wasn't quite sure what my next move should be, and felt like I did need some more work experience and wanted to deepen my connection to social justice organizations. So it just felt like the right next move. And I applied and moved from Jerusalem to New York in 2010.
What kind of work did you do during your service year?
So I worked at an organization called the Urban Homesteading Assistance Board, and I was a tenant organizer. So my main role was really to work with a small team of organizers to identify distressed multifamily housing apartment buildings in New York City, mostly in the Bronx and Brooklyn, and figure out which buildings we wanted to organize and form tenant associations within those buildings to wage campaigns for better living conditions. And also many of the buildings we worked in were in foreclosure. This was, so 2010, it's right after the recession, the financial and the housing collapse. And so there were so many buildings that were in foreclosure, just falling apart. A lot of the tenants didn't even know that their building was in foreclosure, and just, didn't have any point of contact to get repairs. And so part of the work was not just to repair the building, but to also identify affordable housing developers and nonprofit organizations that could be in a position to buy these buildings and remodel them and keep them affordable, so that they weren't continuing to be flipped and passed on to speculative landlords who would just continue to let these buildings fall apart or raise rent and kick people out. So we would do a lot of research and figure out where these buildings were, and just show up and start knocking on doors. And I would knock on doors of these huge apartment buildings and talk to as many tenants as I could to document what their conditions were, and then in many cases report that to the housing authorities and others that could really come in and issue code violations to force improvements, and then also to encourage them to come to a meeting where we would then host and facilitate meetings of tenants in the lobbies of these buildings, facilitating these meetings in both English and Spanish, and really helping them to understand what's going on in their building. A lot of, just identifying what the situation is, whether it's in foreclosure, and then figuring out what could we be doing in terms of collective action to improve that. And so a lot of the times it was partnering with legal aid organizations and bringing in lawyers that could help them with the class action lawsuit, or figuring out if there is another building that has the same landlord or is held by the same bank, and maybe we have a campaign together against that bank to put pressure on them to do something to improve conditions in this building. So it was really, and also I just want to say, like, all of these buildings were unbelievable neglect and just conditions that I did not think existed in this country, honestly, like really just falling apart completely, people living with so much mold and ceilings falling in and rodents. And so I think it was really eye-opening for me, and also really my introduction into organizing and what that looks like, and then also just learning so much about the actual financial crisis and how the housing market works and affordable housing. And now my toddler's talking to me. So yeah, it was just, I had a big portfolio of buildings that I was responsible for, doing that research and educating them, and continuing to keep folks in the loop and bring them into campaigns to improve their lives.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love hearing your toddler talk to you. Okay, so that was 12 years ago. This is the fun of Zoom, as we get to meet everybody's whole family. Hello. So I'd love to hear, in the best that you can, how your service year informed your career path and what you do now.
I'll get back up soon. My wife will be coming out of teaching in a minute. So what I've done since Avodah is I've actually, shortly after, I moved to San Diego, where I live now, and started working at a community development corporation, which is a very small grassroots organization in this one particular low income, like, community of color in San Diego called Logan Heights. Sorry, hold on, I want to make sure he doesn't go off the balcony. Okay, so give me one second. I'm gonna put him inside.
All good. I appreciate that we have extra entertainment. We didn't even know. It's perfect. So I think that you can hear from Avital a little bit about some of the pieces of work, a little bit about other not-for-profits that we work with across the country. Go ahead, Avital.
Okay, sorry about that. So yes, I started working at this community development organization, and the way I think that Avodah was so fundamental in getting me on this path was that it really was my primary job experience at the time that I could point to and talk about the specific experiences that I had as an organizer, and I think got my foot in the door to be able to take on a position as a program coordinator and an organizer at this organization. And then also, I think really, as I mentioned, like my first, like, in addition to the on the ground experience, all the workshops and the education around organizing and the theory and the practice of, and just really understanding dynamics in communities of color and how to communicate with people, and just really practice that empathy that I needed to enter into these spaces that are not my own, not where I come from, but to really be able to hear those stories and help turn that into action. So I think that having come from Avodah, I really could demonstrate that I had that capacity. And also, I think I would say that it also helped me clarify more specifically what I wanted to do. So after working in New York in housing, I actually decided, I'm interested in continuing to work with this population, with this community in urban poverty communities, but not necessarily in housing. And so I moved into a slightly different field. And my organization I worked at in New York was we worked all over New York City, and I was all over the place, popping in and out of buildings. And I saw other organizations that we partnered with that were community-based and really built long-lasting relationships with the residents of that community. And I saw that as an example of something I'd like to do. And so I moved into kind of that more community-focused role. And that's really what I've been doing since then. And so I had that first job where I stayed for 4 years, and then moved into a different community development corporation. And then now actually I'm in a position where I'm funding those organizations. I worked at an organization called Local Initiative Support Corporation, and that was the primary funder of my work for the last decade. And so now I'm helping to attract more funding and to build capacity for those kinds of groups. And it's really just been a blessing to kind of have Avodah as that starting point for me, and just continue to grow and advance in the nonprofit social justice world.
And I just want to really thank you for being part of the advisory council and really giving back to Avodah now too. So I'm curious about why you decided to get involved with the local advisory council and how you see the impact of Avodah San Diego.
I was just really excited first when I heard that Avodah was coming to San Diego. This is a community that I've made my home for a long time now, and really have gotten to know the local community organizations and the needs that exist here in communities of color, and really felt that having Avodah come could be an asset to San Diego. Also in terms of the young progressive Jewish community, I think that's an area that really could use a little more growth and love in San Diego. And so I think Avodah can kind of help build that out even further. And also I was excited to meet the core members and really be sort of a mentor and help them along their own journey, and kind of use my own life as an example of that. And also just, I really love San Diego and all the different kinds of cultures and neighborhoods that are here that I think are not immediately apparent and are not necessarily the public view that people have of San Diego. And so I was really looking forward to helping to introduce people to that and show a different side of what San Diego is.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted you're part of this. I really appreciate that you're part of our advisory council, and that we really built such a wonderful advisory council of local people who really want to help us succeed and help our partner organizations succeed. We're really all doing this together. So thank you. I really want to thank everyone who was with us tonight virtually. Again, we will be in person soon. It will happen. But I am so incredibly proud of the work that is already being done in San Diego and across the border, and so grateful for all our partners who make this work possible. So it's only with community support that we can provide this kind of experience for young people and enhance their capacity and enhance the capacity of our not-for-profit partners who are working on the front line. So Claudia and I can't wait to share more of the stories of Avodah. There are many, you've heard a little bit, and we invite you to join our family of supporters. We are going to formally close our program now, but I am really happy if you want to stay on, ask any questions, be part of the virtual mix and mingle for the next 10 minutes. I'd love to say hello. And I also really just want to invite you, if you have not-for-profits that we should be talking to who might be great partners for us, that's wonderful. We are also just launching next year's Service Corps. We are always launching our next program as we're in our current, which means that if you know young people ages 21 to 26 who you think should be in our program next year in San Diego or anywhere across the country, we will send you information. I hope you'll pass it to them. The way, as you heard, most people hear about our program, even though we're putting it out all over, is really from individuals. So I am really so grateful that you're here, that you're part of all of this. We'd love to, we will meet in person. And until then, I really appreciate your being part of the larger Avodah community. So thank you so much. And we'll end our formal program and we'll go into an informal time. And I really invite, I think that you can unmute if you'd like. And if you'd like to ask any questions or say anything, I'd really be happy to. I wish that we could all have our glass of wine, but without that, still really happy for us to just be together.
One of the things that we miss so much in this community are these in-person Love Fest events where we all love connecting with one another and catching up. And so we thought that this could be a really great way for us to attempt that in a virtual setting. So many wonderful faces. Thank you all for coming out and joining us tonight. As you can see, Avodah is just beginning to take root here in San Diego. Our core members are exceptional. Our staff is exceptional nationally and locally. Our advisory council is populated by extraordinary leaders in the community who are so committed, who are our thought partners and ambassadors. And can't thank you enough for being here. And please stay connected. If you have any questions, please take the floor.
Viva, I see your question about how many core members we hope to have in this upcoming year. And I just want to say our program year is really like a school year. So it starts in late August, early September, and then goes all the way through July. So if someone's graduating college or their year out of college, it's really the perfect timing to come to Avodah. We are really still exploring what that number is going to be. It's probably going to be somewhere between 8 and 12 core members next year. Our intention is to grow over 3 years. We have anywhere in our other sites from 10 core members to 24. And so I think that it really depends on what happens in San Diego, what our numbers will ultimately land on, and also what kind of housing we can find for people. You heard that housing is a piece of the program, and I think especially in San Diego, it's a really important and core piece of the program. I know housing is really expensive, and we are excited to be able to provide that as part of what we give to people in this program. But what that means that we are always looking for houses that are big enough to house big groups of people. So those are all to be figured out together. But it's a great question. I also just want to share one other thing, and again, speak up, which is just that we have found in many of our communities, in all of our communities, that many of the people who come for the program, not everyone, but many, end up staying in the communities that we set up in. And so one of the things that really happens is we have a very strong alumni community that has grown up in New Orleans or in Kansas City or in Chicago or all of our program cities. And so we hope and intend that as we build this, we'll be bringing more and more young, fabulous Jews to San Diego, and also have some homegrown to really help continue to build the Jewish community in San Diego. And that's really exciting too.
I just want to echo that, Cheryl. I mean, JFS in part was so eager to help become a partner in the launch here in San Diego, in part because of our experience that we've had with AmeriCorps over the years. And we've seen many of our AmeriCorps service members get hired on as staff long-term at JFS. We also, as the supervising agency, we're so excited to help expand the capacity of our nonprofit partners. But what Avodah does is actually bring together, right, expanding the capacity of all the nonprofits locally who are addressing poverty, but also ties it to those Jewish values, which then means that we're building the future Jewish leaders of, San Diego, whether that's in our Jewish institutions or in nonprofits addressing poverty based on those Jewish values. And so I know that I invited a couple of partners here who are parts of our synagogue, parts of our federation, to learn more about this, because, whether or not you're the place to host the placement or you're the place to help, really give them an embrace from our Jewish community, invite them in to share the type of work that they're doing and what they're learning about social justice issues. I think that there's so many different ways to support this cause. So placements, applicants, expanding our Jewish community, all of those are ways that I think we can support this. And so I'm always so touched to hear about the work they're doing. And and know how much it's meant for us to have Noah at JFS and expand our capacity. But we also see, hopefully that some of them will stay here and become part of our Jewish community network. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thanks, Carol. It's really such a pleasure. Jewish Family Service has been such an exceptional partner to us. It's really wonderful to work with you. Carla.
Thank you. Hi, Cheryl. I'm on the advisory council in San Diego, and actually my son did Avodah in DC, if you know Elias Newman. I invited a couple of people who are new to Avodah, and I wondered if you could talk about what type of programming do you have for the core members when they're in the Bayit, when they're in the house? Is there a kind of a national curriculum of what you do as far as Jewish programming, or is it up to each individual city?
We actually have a curriculum that is pretty standard across all of our cities that really touches on looking at what is Jewish about social justice, about looking at many of the issues that they're exploring around power. I know Mackenzie was talking about this, power, and how it, as thinking about their own story and their own self and how they go into the work as their own full self, but understanding the power that they might bring to the work and understanding how to show up and do their work well. And our goal is to really help them and help the organizations that we're partnering with have excellent people who can show up and do the work well and really understand what that looks like. So our curriculum is really oriented toward that. And we talk about so many different kind of issues that touch on that. We do text study, we do learning. I'd also just say that we do some really local in every single community we're in. Some of our work is this national curriculum, and some of our work is really understanding the local community. So a piece of our work is really understanding what's happening on the ground. What are the statistics? What's the community look like? What's the Jewish community? How do you understand the Jewish community? We have programs that really look at mapping the Jewish community and understanding all the different components. We do a couple Shabbatons or retreats where we take people away from their house and get a chance to really be offsite and spend time together and celebrate. We have Jewish educators. Actually, Lila Billick, who is on our call, is our Jewish educator for San Diego, and we have Jewish educators in every site. And we do. We also have national programming. So there's a lot of components of our programming. We are about to go into a month of national programming where we bring some of the, I think, most superb Jewish justice leaders from across the country to meet with our core members. So I was just talking to Ruth Messenger, who's going to be speaking to our core members in a few weeks. We really bring excellent people who we want them to meet. We want those leaders to meet our core members. And it's really always wonderful. Usually not in COVID. We do that in person. We hope we will be back there again soon, but we are doing this in this incredible Zoom world that we're all in. So that is exciting. And I really even want to say, that there are some silver linings, many downsides and some silver linings of this. And it really means our core members can connect with each other across cities if they're interested even more, which is nice too. And Carla, thanks for being part of the advisory council.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
I keep getting spotlighted. I feel like all I see is my big face. Anyone else that wants to say anything or ask anything, I really welcome it.
I just wanted to toss, and I was just private messaging Carol, who, by the way, is amazing. And anything she invites me to, I obviously say yes. So I'm really happy that Carol extended the invite for me and for Beth Israel to be part of this. And while we're all in the same room, I had already just said to her, I said, can we get these people, the people that are living, the fellows, do they need high holiday tickets? Do they need rabbis? What can we get? What can we do? How can we help? And all these ideas are flowing. And then I do see some Beth Israel congregants on here as well. And I know that I'll definitely take this back to our social action committee and see how we can help. how we can spread the word, how our older teens, in our high school can learn about this program. Maybe it's something they want to aspire to when they become in the 21 to 26 range. So I'm just really excited to learn more about local partnerships, to see how we can help spread the word and get more people to learn about Avodah. I mean, this was fantastic tonight, and I hope a lot of other people get to hear the recording and hear the stories, because it was super impactful.
Thank you. And thanks, Eileen. And I love that. And I'll just say that everything you said, yes, yes, yes. And, every year we have a new group of core members, many of whom are often new to the city. We have had, synagogues who give high holiday tickets. We've had JCCs that offer gyms. We've had, lots of different kinds. We've had people who, offer walking tours or give our core members are, I will just say, just so you all know, they're on a really tight stipend. So, sometimes people love to send in, bagels and a brunch. Mackenzie, you can tell me, but what you guys all love. But I think one of the reasons we want an advisory council, there's so many reasons, but also because we have a lot of new, young, amazing, brilliant people doing great work in San Diego. And we want you to take care of them too, and really get to know each other. A lot of times we're broken down by generation. We don't even have that opportunity to meet cross-generation. And we have these amazing emerging future and current leaders in our community. And we really want you all to know each other. So please, Anna is on the call. Claudia can connect you. She can let you know, how to connect or how to, drop off food or say hello or find out what might be needed. I know that in other communities, in other cities, that's been wonderful. And sometimes in non-COVID world, people invite people over for the holidays, right? It's a way to really get to know each other. Yeah, they are. I will put in that pitch too. Thanks, Mackenzie. Because San Diego is such a car city, we have a few cars. Some people brought their own cars and we leased a car. We are looking for a donated car. So if you know of anyone who is ready to donate their car and they're at the end, that would be a great benefit to us. And there are so many different ways that people, again, can support Avodah, and we really appreciate it. It's really exciting to be new and on the ground and here.
I'm so sorry if I missed this. I know Mackenzie said, are you guys out? Where is the house located?
So we're in Allied Gardens del Cerro, which is pretty remote as far as San Diego goes. We can walk to our neighbors and that's about it. So we're pretty car bound. So we do a lot of carpooling.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Some of what we were trying to figure out is how to get a house that's big enough to have everybody, that was affordable for us, right? So many different pieces. Also, if you have a house that you want us to talk to you about, where we can potentially rent next year. I mean, these are all things that we're always thinking about in every city that we're in. And they're good challenges. We navigate, we learn. And this is our first year in San Diego. So there's lots of good learning. And thanks, Mackenzie and Rachel. I know you're on too for being our pilot group in San Diego.
Cheryl, that's part of the expansion, right? That eventually, if we had a large enough cohort and we had interest in kind of North County nonprofits, right, which is a totally, at this point, not on the radar so much because of where they're located and transportation issues, but eventually there could be a house in the north and a house in the south. And
correct.
That would be
it's all really feasible. And that's what it looks like in New York City. We've varied, but we have 2 houses. We actually have 3 houses right now, and 2 of them are in different neighborhoods. So that gives, different kinds of access to different not-for-profits, to different kinds of work. And yet they're all one community too. So there's more people, which is really wonderful too. So it is our hope to actually continue to build. Yeah, thanks. I'm just looking at the questions that are coming down. Right, so there's a new Blue Line trolley. That is very exciting. We will learn much more about that and figure out how that can be helpful. And yes, our website is able to take donations, and you can definitely give in someone's honor or memory. That's wonderful. Thank you. You're also welcome to talk to Claudia, who's on the call, and I know she'll be sending out a follow-up email, and thank you. And please reach out if you want to. So we're always thinking about all of these, all of these different pieces, and we're so new in town, and yet we are already, we're already been warmly welcomed into the community. And so I love all of this. I really feel, I am sadly not sitting in San Diego right now, but I'm feeling the warmth, which I really need because I'm sitting in a very cold place in New York City. But it's really incredible to get to know the community and get to know all of the ways that Avodah can be part of the community and really build on what is already such a strong community. So I'm just going to say thank you. You are all incredible. I look forward to seeing you in person. Nicole, Mackenzie, Avital, if you're still on, thank you. It really is such a pleasure, and have a good evening. Goodbye.
Bye.